Recently, two high school students unearthed a prehistoric man in their own backyard. Their story is completely true. Encino Man.
Huh? Flamage. Oh, he is so greasy.
Hey, Link. See you next period. Watch him. All right.
All right, to illustrate the different kinds of teaching methods that can come from having different views of language or from focusing on learning versus focusing on acquisition, I just want to show you this quick, funny little video clip from a movie called Encino Man. And in this movie, a couple of teenagers dig up a frozen caveman in their backyard and they thaw him out and they befriend him. They take him to school, they introduce him to American pop culture, but most importantly, they teach him to communicate. They teach him the English language. The idea that since he's a caveman, he has no language. But this actually gives us a very clever and unique way to picture our language students, because one of the fundamental ideas of acquisition is that we can learn languages, even our second languages, in a very similar process that babies learn their languages, because babies acquire their language. They learn to speak whether they have a teacher or not. They usually learn to speak before they ever go to their first year of school, and they learn to speak perfectly without any kind of teacher. And we're used to this idea that babies can acquire language, but SLA tries to ask the question, can adults acquire language through the same kind of process? And so in this movie, we see an adult acquiring language. And although it's a silly example, this could be what it would look like for one of your students to acquire language, just as if it was their very first language as a baby. Let's just take a peek and then maybe you'll see what I'm talking about.
Buddy, we got Spanish now. Spanish is like guacamole, chips, and salsa. La dia es mi hermanos. The day is beautiful. The sun is shining all through the night. Nice to see you this morning.
Vale, repitan en español. The cheese is old and moldy.
El queso está viejo y perdido.
Where's the bathroom? ¿Dónde está el sanitario?
¿Dónde está el sanitarios?
So this is actually a perfect example of another teaching method, which is audiolingual, or the audiolingual method. In the audiolingual method, students learn that second language through lots of drilling and repetition and memorizing set phrases. And a typical audiolingual method would use a lot of audio recordings where you saw them in the language lab with their headphones on. And while this is a very specific type of teaching method, I think we'd all agree that, hey, that looks like a language class. They're able to practice their pronunciation, they're not allowed to use English in class, they're not allowed to make mistakes.
You smell.
Hey, señorita. That hurt my lobes. I didn't do it. They started the whole thing.
And in this example, when it comes to learning versus acquisition, it looks like the teacher's teaching and they are learning the language. And the teacher has a very clear role in this classroom.
Repitan en español. The cheese is old and moldy.
El queso está viejo y perdido.
Where's the bathroom? ¿Dónde está el sanitario?
¿Dónde está el sanitarios?
Good. Once again.
You're cute. Meet me at Blaine's tonight.
Blades tonight.
A funny thing about this phrase that you hear them repeating in Spanish, the cheese is old and moldy, where is the bathroom, is that this phrase that was learned in the middle of that Spanish lesson at the high school gets repeated outside of the classroom later on in the movie. And this is a classic example of how relying on memorized phrases of a new language makes it really hard to break out of those phrases later on and in real conversation, and to be able to communicate in a meaningful way.
Si yo veo a alguien con mi mujer, lo mató.
El queso está viejo y podrido. ¿Dónde está el sanitario?
But watch what happens when the language learning now leaves the classroom and Link is no longer learning Spanish in a tightly controlled classroom, but instead his friend is teaching him English and all kinds of things at the local convenience store.
Kashmir, Rajneesh, is it how many minutes for the burrito again?
2 minutes.
1 minute.
1.5.
2 minutes, I'm telling
Ah, make up your melons. Is it 1 or 2?
1.5 minutes.
Okay. Okay, my friend. Try and experience what I'm about to chirp in your lobes. Okay, cool? Today, buddy, we're gonna discuss grindage. Having filled the furnace, packed the cheeks, and stuffed the gills. Okay? You're probably used to eating twigs, right? But out here in the US of A, buddy, we got something called the 4 basic food groups. And Link, this is not one of them.
Oh.
Look at what we have here. Dairy group. Milk duds. You hide these under your pillow, bro, so your mom doesn't find them. If she does, you're tweaked, buddy. You keep on cruising. Fruit group. Sweet tarts. These are killer, buddy. So citrusy, dude, you'll freak. Keep on cruising. Hi, this is the vegetable group. Vegetable group. Oh, corn nuts. Oh, put them on a pedestal, bro. Look at that. Yeah. Those are kill, huh? Meat group. Come on. Take the meat group. These are my favorite. Oh. Hey, you gotta be equal. Equals. 50-50 here. Ew. Figures hot on the outside, icicle in the middle.
2 minutes.
But you like that, right? Because you're a caveman. Cool, buddy. The beverage. Icy, bro. This is what put this place on the map. Oh.
What are you doing, Mrs. Stoney? No, you can't do this. You can't do this here.
Now, you must leave now, please.
Look, Kashmir, Rajneesh, why don't you just chill?
No, but still.
Link and I are cruising the mountain, bro, and we figure we's a little juice.
No, whizzing the juice. Where's the juice? No, whizzing the juice.
No, whizzing the juice.
Chill, bud.
No, but chill.
No. It's okay. Just chill.
I'll be back.
No, but still.
So here we clearly have a different kind of classroom and a different kind of learning experience. One that's really more about acquisition and fluency. Link's friend here is teaching him all kinds of new words, and these are not textbook controlled, accurate sentences, but it's really just the way that people are talking out on the street. He's using all kinds of colloquial terms like chirp in your lobes or wheeze the juice. And he's not so much teaching this language, but he's really just exposing his student to all of these things. And whereas in that Audiolingual Spanish class where they're experiencing language through headphones and through lots of repetition, you could say that this classroom and this language lesson in the convenience store is a little more interesting and different. Notice that these actual objects are there in front of them, and not only can he touch them, but he can taste them. And when he wheezes the juice, he even experiences the feeling of a brain freeze. The teacher in this example is really just facilitating a language learning experience for his student, And Link is able to pick up the pieces and make sense of it on his own through that experience. And you may be thinking, well, he's not really doing a very good job teaching. And what about comprehensible input? He's all over the place as a teacher. He's throwing all kinds of language at his student. Clearly, this is not comprehensible. And that's a great point. Stephen Krashen describes it this way. Classrooms are great for making input comprehensible, but bad at being interesting. The real world is great at being interesting, but bad at making input comprehensible. And then he makes the joke that some college professors are neither comprehensible nor interesting. So really our goal as teachers is to try to be both. Can we be both comprehensible with the input that we give our students, but can we also facilitate a lesson that's interesting and that allows our students to just be exposed to this language and to take it in? Can we make lessons that are colorful and fun, that allow our students to touch them and taste them, to even experience a brain freeze, if that's what it means to learn this particular language lesson? Can we find a balance between learning and acquisition, between making input comprehensible but also interesting? And if we can't take our students outside the classroom and take them to that convenience store, then how can we bring in some of those resources into our classroom to create and facilitate that experience? By the way, when you're looking at the descriptions of the different teaching methods, this whole scene at the convenience store is probably a good example of what we would call CLT, or communicative language teaching. It also has elements of task-based learning as well, where the students are really just completing a task, and through that process they are acquiring and playing with the language. But I encourage you just to look at the descriptions of those different teaching methods, compare it to this particular language learning lesson, and see what you think. Is it communicative language teaching, task-based learning, or is it some blend of the two? So that is a short intro about teaching methods. If you could create your own personalized teaching method for your school or your classroom or your set of students, what would a typical lesson look like? What would be your view of language? Would you focus more on learning or acquisition? What would be your role as a teacher? What would be your student's role? And what would you call this new method of yours? I can't wait to find out.
Check out the fresh nugs. Wheeze in the juice.
Ow! Buddy.
Check out my cat.
Oh, God, you got him talking like you now.